Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. As we head into Week 16, we're taking a look at the playoff picture. We already talked about the NFC. Now we're looking at the AFC playoff picture. We got the 10-4 Bengals now leading their division after beating the Bucks over the weekend. We got the Bills, Chiefs, and Titans, also division leaders. The Bills clinching their playoff berth. And you have the Chiefs clinching their division. In the wild card spots, we got the Ravens, Chargers, and the Dolphins. And then still on the hunt, the Patriots, Jets, and the Jags at 6 and 8. Let's welcome back Pete Prisco and Charles Davis to break down the AFC playoff picture. Got to talk about the Bengals. They're still in the run for the AFC 1 seed. They've won 6 straight at this point. Started off the season 0-2. Are we dealing with some injuries, or they are dealing with some injuries, I should say, on defense? We know Sam Hubbard in that situation. Should the Chiefs and the Bills be looking over their shoulder with the 1 seed up for grabs? Charles, what do you think?
Well, they should be, because you know that so far, these Bengals have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs head-to-head. So it's a really weird deal. They get another shot at the Buffalo Bills. So if they all end up in a tie, the Bengals win the tiebreaker. But the weird part is Kansas City has a pretty easy schedule down the stretch. So they could actually benefit from the Bengals beating the Bills, knocking them out the number 1 spot, and then Kansas City with 1 less loss would get the number 1 spot, even though they got beat by them. So I'm going to cut it down a little bit here and not be quite so chatty. Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when you look at this, the schedule really favors, you mentioned it, the Chiefs. And the Bills and Bengals have to play each other. When you look at the Bengals schedule, I mean, they have to go to New England. New England's not playing well, but that's still not an easy game. And they close out with the Ravens, probably for the division. So I think the schedule will keep them from getting the top seed. But I'll tell you what, you look around the AFC, there aren't a lot of teams that are going to want to play them in the postseason, particularly when they get healthy on defense.
All right, the Chargers, they're currently the AFC 6 seed. They have the easiest strengths of schedule remaining. They got the Colts, Rams, and the Broncos. How confident are you in this Chargers team to get into the postseason, Pete?
Well, I think on paper they should be in the postseason. They should run the table. They should win them all. Now, having said that, they're also the Chargers, and we've come to expect Charger-like things from the Chargers. It should never be that way. They're too talented a team. They have too talented a quarterback and a passing game. And yet, every year and seemingly every game, we have to question what they're doing. Last week, they played the Tennessee Titans, who are terrible in pass defense. Trevor Lawrence lit them up the week before. And all of a sudden, Justin Herbert's struggling to throw the football down the field. I don't get it sometimes, but they should be a playoff team, and they should be the 5 seed. I think they run the table and get the 5 seed. But again, I give you caution, because they are the Chargers, and we know sometimes the Chargers do Chargers things.
Pete, I love how you put things here. For me, my biggest worry was starting with last week with Tennessee and then Indianapolis coming up. Why? Because to me, the biggest Achilles heel on this Chargers team overall is run defense. Has been for the last couple of seasons, even though Brandon Staley's their head coach and he's a defensive guru. They went out and got a bunch of guys in the offseason to try and plug up holes. A number of them have been hurt. They haven't played up to stuff. It hasn't really worked. Yet they survived Derrick Henry. And Jonathan Taylor's probably not going to play this week for Indianapolis. That was my biggest concern. So when I look at that schedule, the Rams don't run it particularly well now. Denver, we know, doesn't run it particularly well now. So they are at a spot where their biggest weakness should be masked because the teams they're playing, that's not even close to a strength of theirs, especially now that Indianapolis has lost Taylor. So I kind of like where the Chargers are at this point, even though, as you pointed out, they could put themselves in jeopardy. They should have been in the playoffs last year, but week 17, they lost on the road at Houston, which made the game against the Raiders a must-win game, and they weren't able to pull it off.
The Chargers remaining 3 opponents, all 5+ games under 500. Okay, moving along to the Dolphins. They're still in the playoff picture despite losing 3 straight. Now they got the Packers coming to town. Charles, if you're a Dolphins fan, how worried should you be at this point?
I wouldn't be particularly worried because this team has some resilience to it. That game against Buffalo, in Buffalo, when everyone talked about how cold it was going to be and Mike McDaniel wearing the shirt and the whole deal, they didn't lose it because of the snow. They didn't lose it because of the cold. They battled them toe-to-toe. Josh Allen is just magnificent in those types of situations. Tua played well. I think this is a Dolphins team that has some grit and some determination. I wouldn't be worried. Let's face it. If a team was coming to play them on Christmas Day with the same record as the Packers, but didn't say Green Bay Packers on their helmets, we might look at it differently. There's still that respect factor for Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't be that worried about if I was a Dolphins fan, although, of course, you have to until you actually get to the playoffs. But I like where they are.
See, I disagree with you. I think they need to be worried. And this is an enormous game for them, obviously. They close out with New England. At New England, they close out with the Jets at home. When you look at their schedule, it's brutal. It's tough. And they could be on a 6-game losing streak and maybe miss out on the postseason. That would be terrible because this team's better than that. But they haven't played to that lately. And they played good opponents. I get it. But last week, they had 3 third-and-short situations in the second half. And what'd they do? They passed them on all 3. Why not run the ball? They were average over 7 yards a run. So what do? You overthink it. I know you have great toys outside. You love to throw the football. And Tua played well in that game. But you got to be better than that. You got to be smarter than that. So I think this week will challenge Mike McDaniel. I thought last week would, and it did. This is an even bigger week for Mike McDaniel. Be careful with the Green Bay Packers. Shootout, I guarantee you. First 1 to 30 wins that game.
All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're 6-8, and they can be a playoff team if they win out. Right now, they got a 39% chance to win the AFC South. Pete, around week 13, I was sitting up here with Rick Spielman. There was a little back and forth. You were saying that Trevor Lawrence, at that point, was going to turn a corner on the season, at least for speaking to a quarterback perspective. Now, the Jags just beat the Cowboys in overtime. Do Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, Pete, continue this momentum in the remaining 3 weeks left? What do you think?
I think they do. I think that offense is tough to stop. Now, they lost their left tackle, Cam Robinson. He suffered a meniscus injury, but you draft that. You drafted Walker Little in the second round last year. He steps in and plays. Trevor Lawrence has elevated his game to being one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now. He's playing to that. 14 touchdown passes, 1 pick in the last 5. That's outstanding. I thought he'd have a great season. He got off to a slow start. I predicted before the season 4,300 yards and 33 touchdown passes for him. He's going to get the 4,300. He's probably going to fall short of the 33, probably 30, but he is carrying that team right now. They can score on anybody, and they're not out of games. The problem is their defense isn't that good. So they got to get stops. They got to get turnovers, which they did on Sunday. But boy, I'll tell you what, the schedule, not that daunting. Jets on the road. Jets don't have a great offense to match that defense. You look at the Texans. They've traditionally had problems with the Texans. Should beat them. They're better than them. Heck, think about this. If Jacksonville wins the next 2 and Tennessee somehow lost to the Texans and the Cowboys, Jacksonville could rest guys in Week 18. Think about that.
I'm looking at that game, Pete, and just thinking to myself, let it come down to a 1-game showdown between the 2 of them. Because think of everything that's happened in the AFC South that's led us to here. Jacksonville gets off to a good start. We've got eyes on them, the whole deal. They go into a slump. They're not playing so well. We dismiss them. It's supposed to be Indianapolis and Tennessee. Tennessee sweeps Indianapolis before October is even over. What happens there? Matt Ryan gets benched by the owner. Frank Reich gets fired as the head coach of the team. Offense coordinator got fired the week before. Essentially a white flag. Let's bring in Jeff Saturday, give him an opportunity so I can hire him next year because he now has experience. That division's over. We're done with this thing. Now look at it. All of a sudden Jacksonville's surging. Tennessee's come back to the pack. We didn't see that part happening. And Ryan Tannehill is hurt again with his ankle. Oh, do they have to play Malik Willis down the stretch? And if so, you remember when they played him before, they threw it one time in the second half against Houston because Derrick Henry went for over 200. But what if they can't do that? What if now he has to actually throw the ball like an NFL quarterback? You had a really, really big-time one-dimensional team in Tennessee. Jacksonville, Tennessee in a final, if Malik Willis is quarterbacking or Ryan Tannehill's not 100%, there's 8 people in the box, 9 people in the box. Can you beat them on the outside? That's what Jacksonville will say. All of a sudden, it's real. Jacksonville has a chance to win this division, and I'm the first to say there's no way we saw this coming. There's no way any of us saw this coming. And by the way, Pete, the football, 2 things. 1, I just want to do something different rather than hold a pen in my hand. And 2 is an homage to John W. Heisman, the former coach who the trophy is named for. You remember what he told his players every year, the first day of camp? Gentlemen, this is a football. Better for you to have died as a small child than to fumble this football. John W. Heisman. Rest in peace.
All right, that is Pete Prisco and Charles Davis, and we're finally getting some clarity on Charles and the football. Love it, breaking down the AFC playoff picture for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Charles also with a great Christmas display there, looking very festive. Love to see it.
Yeah, happy holidays to everyone. Happy you celebrate them.
Happy holidays, guys. And for more breakdowns of the NFL playoff picture, make sure you check out Inside the NFL. New episodes streaming every Tuesday there on Paramount Plus at 9:30 p.m.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.